ఇలా జోక్ ఏంటంటే
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me? Am I on?
సాటర్డే కదా
Yes.
క్లాసెస్ ఉన్నాయి, అది ఖచ్చితంగా జాయిన్ కావాలి. ఏ క్లాసెస్? హెచ్ఆర్ఎం పీజీ చేస్తున్నా. పీజీ
So employee productivity we are starting with today. Employee productivity means what is the output that you're getting from the system and what is the point of time that you are finishing that particular work. So how important it is to measure those outputs. So productivity can be enhanced by increasing your output by varying the input, and input can be decreased without varying the output, thereby decreasing the costs of the resources. So basically, whenever we are getting any work that has to be done, so we have to measure what is the outcome of it, what is the output of it, right? So how much of the effort are we doing in order that we are utilizing these resources? So employee productivity means quantity of goods and services which are produced and the resources which are put in. Let us understand the factors affecting employee productivity: wages and financial incentives. Uh, what is wages and financial incentives? The major factor that motivates employees is a fair and consistent wage. It must be adequate enough to meet the needs, employees and their families' needs, and has to be in line with minimum wage law. It is also necessary to provide sick leave, maternity leave with pay, and holidays with pay in conformity with the law. So basically, wages and financial incentives is in order for us to work, what is it that we are, getting in return, right? So what is the employees getting? So employees must be getting certain sick leaves, paid holidays, maternity leave, all these, comfort zones. They should be very good. So these should be the financial incentives and the consistent wage format that they should be getting, like consistent wage format also. And also incentives also include educational allowances for the children, life insurance, bonuses. All these comes under wages and financial incentives. Only then, people would be comfortable in working. The next is job security. Second. When a worker is when a worker has a good job with decent pay and conducive work environment, he or she will continue. See, environment also matters a lot. With what kind of environment are we working for a psychological and economic working conditions? So the employee will definitely continue in an organization for a long time without wasting any of his pressures, with knowing that he has a correct format of recruiting and training the employees, and he will definitely be loyal and committed to work. Health and safety is one of the most important thing in order to get productivity out of employees. Is what kind of safety and healthy working environment is useful for a productive and positive work environment. That is, there should not be any health dangers in the workplace. That is, the machinery and equipment should be in place. The dangerous equipment and health hazards should also be included. Second. One second now. Sure. So what is it that you are, providing to the employees in terms of health and safety? That is, you need to reduce the number of injuries. The employees should not be dissatisfied. goodwill and the reputation of the organization. So, teams and teamwork towards enhancing productivity through synergy, as it improves collaboration between workers, brings better ideas from different perspectives, and enhances the involvement and commitment of the employees in the success of the whole process. So, apart from now, what you know about productivity is you have to increase on the incentives, you have to increase on the bonuses, you have to ensure that there is a lot of health and safety. The next is performance management and rewards. So the employees will get elated when they are very satisfied and they are happy in doing the work when they are being recognized and rewarded. I think that is also one of the most important process. So you need to ensure that, see, all these intrinsic reward is also very, very important in the organization. Training and development. It is quite important to identify that where there is need of employee being more perfect in his job, and where the organization must recognize that where he requires training so that he can be more productive, and whenever there is a changing trends in the market, so what kind of training needs that he should be providing. Employee development is to strengthen the abilities and to acquire new skills. You should also encourage the employees to keep training and keep doing better work so that they are enhancing their skills. They need to do more certification courses, or they need to do a lot of more crash courses so that they are getting perfect in what they need to do. And workplace culture. Workplace culture is the sense of identity to the members. That is the stability of social system, and in order to control the mechanism and to create a very healthy working environment. So now that we know the basic factors of how to create productivity in the workplace, what you need to do with the employees, the next is what are the ways to measure now. Now there are many ways to measure. The first is output per man hour. That is how much output that a man is, a person is giving, hours, right? Like how much is he working, or what is the hours that he has to put in this work that he has to get in return, and what is the added value of per unit of labor costs as well. So basically, what is the market rate that you need to get these employees on board with this particular wage, and then what is he doing per hour, and in total number of hours, how much is he able to produce productivity. So these are just something that you can just learn to see and analyze how much productivity that a person is giving. Let us understand the advantages of measuring employee productivity. First is to improve working efficiency. How do you ensure that a person is improving the working efficiency is to understand what is the market globally. Basically, the exerting the best efforts in relation to others. Also, to see in the current situation what is the efficiency that the firm can thrive and succeed in the business. So, with the help of the productivity, with the help of measuring what the above measurements were, so you are able to understand the efficiency of the workers, and accordingly, you are able to measure what kind of planning that you can do to your organization in order to improve this working efficiency. Reduce production costs. Now, resources are required in order to perform a task. Improper utilization of resources would escalate total cost, which would adversely affect the profitability of the business. So, how do you produce production cost? Is when the production cost is on a higher levels. It leads to higher prices, and they have constraining impact on the company sales. So, one of the best means to increase the productivity of every employee is the job, the plan, the system, and by taking all these appropriate measures. Benchmark production process. Benchmark production process is what is the, how do you strengthen your company's, competitiveness? There has to be a benchmark with the leading player in the market, right? So what is it so different that you are giving it to the market? You're offering to the customers. So that is the turnover, the production, the system, and everything. So you have to be able to compare the company which finds out and what it stands in the market, identifying the weak areas. So this is how you are able to define a benchmark, that why your company is different than any other companies. So to understand the improvements and to facilitate the productivity. Assessment of living standards. Now, the income of the individual reflects his level of living standards. And as such, the per capita income is the measure for living standard of life. Higher level of productivity of an individual will increase his earnings, which positively affects the living standards. So all these things basically, advantages will help us to understand how do we measure and go about with the measurement. That is, how do you improve the survival of the company by increasing the company, in order to see how it will survive, to increase the production cost, that is the profitability measurements, to increase the benchmark of the company by increasing the turnover and the production cycle and facilities, and also understand the living standards of the market, the living standards of the market, and the income level of the individual in the organization. What is the productivity measures issues? So, what basically productivity measurement issues are: the output and its measurement, which differs from different industry to industry. In a certain case, the output can be easily measured, but in other case, it is very difficult. Now, for instance, in software firms, the output is coding of programs, coding or the programs. Now, measuring this becomes difficult. So, in case of quantitative dimensions, measurements is easy, whereas for qualitative dimensions, the measurement is cumbersome. Now, in the process of measuring productivity, there are certain issues on which unanimity is difficult. So, some significant issues are discussed here. Let us understand the first one. So, qualitative aspects of productivity, such as the quality, the magnitude, and the intensity of the labor efforts, cannot be measured. Only approximate estimates can be made, right? So, like if you're working in an organization, what is the hard work that you're putting in will not be measured, right? What is the quality that you're bringing in will not be measured, but we are able to see that and define it. So that's how we are able to get the approximate estimate of it. And in case of development of new design or the model of products, production of pioneering um, product, measurement of productivity, it becomes very difficult to understand, what is it that is requiring more time. So when different individuals, teams, or systems, when they are involved, again, measurement becomes difficult in the system because everything looks very challenging. And also the productivity measures change with the passage of time, and the multi-product which uses multi-inputs, the difficulty arises with development of productivity measures. So all these things, the output measurement in terms of number of customers contacted, added, complaints, all these things contribute. It plays a very, very important role, but it cannot be measured. So what you can basically do is to understand the estimation of it, understand that with the passage of time certain things will be changing, or understanding that in this challenging, difficult time, you need to require more time. So all these things play a very important role. So productivity improvement. So how do you ensure? Now you know how to get productivity, okay, by wage and incentives and all those points that we've learned it in factors. Now we know how to measure those productivities. What are the advantages that we are getting in order to measure the productivity? And we have also seen what are the issues that we can get if we are not able to measure certain productivity. So, but in all these four things, what is more important is how do we bring more improvement in productivity? So, how do we bring that? First is by setting mission of the organization. Very, very important thing that you have to understand is why is your organization existing? What is the basic purpose of your organization? Now, if your organization is an educational institute, so your basic vision of the organization should be the reason for integrity or reason for students to flourish or to go global. There are certain things, but how is it that the employees should also align themselves to the mission and then work towards such a holistic measure? That is very, very vital point in order to consider the setting the mission of the organization. That why is your what is the purpose that your organization is working for? Next is setting goals and performance standards. Now, every department, every individuals should be able to set a certain objective, set a certain goal, so that you are able to reach that goal. If there is no goal, then everybody is just working without able to come to a decisive or to come into certain kind of measurement of outcome and input. So the performance standards should definitely be communicated well to the employees so that they are knowing when they need to be expecting to set their goals. That is timely performance of certain things so that they would know how to set those goals. And you have to continuously definitely motivate the employees. Now motivation is the salary package that we've spoken about, the work, the performance, the incentives. All these things play a very, very important role in your career. Identification of strength and weaknesses. Now with the changing time, now what makes it more important is identifying your strengths and your weaknesses. That is, your company consists of different castes, age, gender, creed, religion, languages. All these things diversify the workplace, and it becomes your own strengths and weaknesses. So what are the weaknesses that you can recognize? There is the how to overcome those weaknesses also play a very important role. So apart from you setting a mission, goal standards, motivating employees, you need to understand strengths and weaknesses as well. Training and development of employees. I think even in factors in all the above points, training plays a very important role because this point is being repeated in everywhere. Training and development of employees is how well that you can increase their productivity, is how well they are excel in their fields. So if they're excelled in their fields, they are able to meet standards, they're able to meet expectations. So you need to provide them certain training, you need to give such kind of improvement category to them so that in the current and in the future years they are able to get better performance standards and performance appraisal. Due to their performances, their timely performances that they're setting their goals, you are able to give that in the regular employment in terms of being rewarding them. Poor performance, good performance, but analyzing their performance. This kind of measurements will definitely improve their performances in the future. Measuring and managing individual productivity. So, how do we measure and manage individual productivity? Now, measuring employee productivity is a very significant part in production. Now, this requires clear indication of productivity. Now, productivity indicators play an important role in measuring improvement. They should be relevant to the business and emphasize on problem areas or areas where improvements have been made. They should be reactive to variance in input or output and should be based on business records which are easily accessible. Now, there should be consistent. Now, how do you measure an individual productivity? So, you are able to measure an individual productivity only when you're tracking them, only when you're tracking their improvements. So, what are the productivity indicators? The annual sales, um, the number of new consumers, the number of consumers per employee, the retention of the employees. So to be decreased, or check the cost of production if it's being high or low, the percentage of wastage of resources, the absenteeism of staffs. You can define the motivation. The customer complains that these employees are not giving us good. So these are the criterias which you need to evaluate. That is their objectivity, availability, comparability, and quality and controllability. So basically, you are able to measure them. You should be able to measure and assess them. You have to include different levels to measure them, the availability of the resources in order to measure them at all levels, and compare them with different employees as well, or for different tasks. And you have to able to get the impact of the result also that you are able to measure. Next is using employee productivity for setting incentives. So using employee productivity for setting incentives. So how do you use these productivity to set incentives is to develop incentive schemes. You are able to relate compensation of output and employer in attempting to induce workers to turn out to a greater volume of work, and what kind of schemes that you are getting for incentives for cost effective. That is, the companies use golden handcuffs, also called retention or loyalty incentives, to retain talented employees by indicating that they are valuable to the organization. Companies use employee productivity to design incentives. That is communicate. First is communicate. Organization wide communication about use of employee productivity to design incentives enable employee understand significance of productivity measurement. That is, they're likely to feel productivity measurement as a ritual. So communicate that to them. Relationship. Productivity behavior is related to incentives, right? Uniqueness. Employee productivity used to set regular rewards is common. And relationship, uniqueness, equity, team productivity. So basically, what is uniqueness? Uniqueness is the employee productivity used to set regular rewards is common. Equity is to be fairly distributed. Team productivity is what difficulties which they can arise in the team. Incentives, they should be designed in the basis of designing incentives. Change is having a benchmark to change the organization environment, and to make sure that that the employees are enthusiastic to work and they are being rewarded for their work. Personalization is employee productivity reflected in personalized incentives being additionally doses of motivation. Personal development is upskilling drive employees to give value of productivity. Similarly, employee productivity linked to social entrepreneur is, fast growing trends. So you need to create a fund that employees can use for a special cause of their interest, making them develop a strong bond. Like example, employees can make a contribution to company's fund to some social cause in which they are interested within certain conditions. What is individual and organizational productivity? Okay. The productivity of all the economies of the world determines the productivity of the world. The productivity of economies, in turn, depends on productivity of organization in the economies. The productivity of the organization depends on productivity of individual employees performing different jobs. So basically, what it says is individual and organizational productivity is the productivity of the individual performing in different jobs and the form of basis of understanding the productivity. So you need to understand individual productivity. Researchers must make sure that they're modeling synergies and problems that happen when individual employees are congregated into work, teams, departments, divisions, and all. So basically, productivity is not the only indicator of individual or organizational performance, but productivity definitely interrelates with change, that is the financial controls, innovation, risk taking, competitive effectiveness. All these things leads to the success or the failure. Individual productivity and goal alignment. Just like individual goals and organizational goals, uh, even productivity also needs to be aligned. That is, defining productivity and directing the behavior, monitoring performance and providing feedback, diagnose the problem. Very important is to understand what is the problem. Models of productivity. The objective of the organization is to bring synchronization between individual work behavior and organizational goals. So this is the figure that will explain us the relationship. Organizational goals, productivity measures, work behavior, incentives. So we have known about what is productivity. Next, we will do a little bit of performance audit. Now, performance audit has two perspectives. At macro level, it refers to the examination of government activity. At micro level, it refers to the examination of organizational activity. The basic objective of performance audit is threefold. There is the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. The performance audit is undertaken in a series of steps. The performance audit report is to be submitted to the management in order to take remedial measures. Performance audit essentially identifies various uh, lacunas in the system of its impact on human performance is sensitive. As such, report becomes very sensitive to both the management and employees. So basically, what is performance audit? Performance audit is done through the examination of from the government activity. So it is done with the examination of the government activity and the organizational activity. So we need to submit this report to the management. So basically, performance audit is macro level, micro level, where you are auditing the government program and the organization's program. What is the significance of performance audit? Now, performance audit, they help in conducting the business efficient, in an efficient and effective manner. It measures efficiency of an organization, processes, and elements. So, in order to determine whether inputs are used in the output in an optimal way. So, you see, why are you thinking that this macro and micro level of performance audit is beneficial for us? Is because it will help us to finish in an effective manner. It will it will ensure that we are studying the organization's insights better. It will also help us to create the quality and the quantity, like the hierarchy, the functional, the divisional levels. And it will also give you a view of weaknesses and the remedial actions and the decision making and better utilization of resources. So, what is the process of performance audit? Development of assessment criteria. So, an assessment of performance is considered negative. People do not want to listen negative appraisal, so they resist idea of appraisal. So they believe it brings out their mistakes. But it is found that if the assessment criteria are developed with the help of their participation and it is widely communicated, the acceptance is more. In developing the performance assessment criteria, it is essential to consider the facts of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. Consequently, it needs to be converted into specific assessment criteria to enable the measurement of organizational performance. So basically, what is the development of assessment criteria is you need to convert the specific assessment criteria to measuring the criteria for organization's performance. So this is a very vital, a source to confirm the test of relevancy, operative, and consistency. The choice of audit objectives. Now, specific objectives of performance audit are required to conduct audit effectively. So, the poor performance and support the good performance. Objective aims at exercising controls and corrective actions are not welcomed. Preparation of schedule. It is to begin the audit and at what frequency. Performance audit is a continuous process. Time slots should be given to visit the department or the division of appraisal, and that should be not be the missing links. So you need to begin the audit at a frequency and at a continuous process. Choice of audit tasks. It is actual selection of the tasks to perform. What is preparatory work? Preparatory work is information or financial information, the ratio, the predictive analysis, all these things that has to be, considered. And then the lastly is performance audit planning. Performance audit planning is assessing whether the relevant management and the control system is irregular or regular. the execution basically. So regular visits should be made to the department or to the divisions to council sessions and what has to be organized and assessing whether the performance evaluation is done accordingly. So with this, we will stop here and we'll continue in the next class. Thank you, class.